figured it was about time that I came on here and shed a little bit of light of what changed my perspective around living with type 1 diabetes. As you can see from my content on this page, because I've not deleted anything, that I used to be all about exercise and nutrition, it's possibly why you are here in the first place from my old content. But I became unwell in 2017, which happened to coincide with giving my life to Jesus. At the time, I had a lot of unanswered ailments, which continued on for many years. And now that I am, way further down the line on this journey, I have specifically walking with Jesus, definitely learned that there are no such thing as coincidences. And it is no coincidence that the same year that I felt like my entire body was falling apart, I encountered Jesus. But in this time, I was no longer able to exercise. And all my hard work around nutrition and eating low carb and trying to not have to take mealtime insulin, all of that went out the window, because not only was my body now sick, I learned through my relationship with Jesus that my soul was sick. So through my health journey and my relationship with Jesus, I learned two very important things. One, nothing is one size fits all. And I tried to make everything one size fits all, disregarding individual backgrounds, not just like, hey, what's your physical activity level? What's the history you have with exercise? But did they have trauma in their life? What's their family dynamics like? How do they eat? Do they move? Do they step away from work? How's their stress level? I disregarded all of that and made it one size fits all, and that is not applicable. And it's best to avoid chasing after what is in front of you or what you are hearing. The more you hear around you about what is good, the more you should actually be questioning if it's good for you. And it's absolutely the best to wait on the Lord to direct your steps. Secondly, I learned a very important fact that I believe you will become to realize if you haven't already yourself, that we are a triune being. We are body, soul, and spirit. And we often try to address the physical and body stuff. And of course, diabetes, it is a bodily ailment, a lifelong disease. So it would make sense to deal with an ailment related to the pancreas that responds to food with food and exercise. So you get more muscle mass. You don't need as much insulin or diabetes medication if you're dealing with other types, because now there is no longer just type 1 and type 2, which is another red flag, in my opinion, of the complexity of diagnoses and diseases. I don't want to go on that tangent, but at the end of the day, these new types of diabetes and people getting type 1 diabetes later in life, when it used to be called juvenile diabetes, and it is no longer called that because people are getting it later in life, there's a problem. But nonetheless, what I can tell you is whether it's an age gap, like age differences, different diagnoses, we are that triune being. And even though we try to address things on the physical and body level, and we may see temporary results, we will all continue to have some bodily ailments and sickness, because as a triune being, we actually respond in the order of spirit, soul, and body. So no matter what the diagnosis is on that physical level, the body level, be it type 1, type 2, 1.5, and I think now there's like a 1A and a 1B or something. It's crazy. No matter what that label is on the body level, we all have a soul that creates a response in the body, and we all have a spirit that was one with God before time. And if we can address those two things, the body responds, and that's really powerful. So again, I gave my life to Jesus in 2017, got sick at the same time, and this led me to start digging into why I was working out so consistently and attempting to control diabetes through exercise and nutrition. Because as someone that says, okay, I say yes to Jesus being my Lord and Savior, you're supposed to surrender all. You're supposed to say, I want no control over things now. And that's when I realized All of my attempts with exercise and nutrition was driven from self-hate and wanting to be in control, simply to prove that I could do it. If you've been around long enough, or you were on the Periscope days, or just any of all the content I would create around diabetes, you knew that I believed in living without limits, to not being a label. And I absolutely believe our words are powerful, and you do not want to live under this weight of this label because it's projecting things onto you that you're absorbing, whether they're true or not. You have to be careful what you focus your mind on, which again goes back to your soul. Wanting to prove you can do something and you can live beyond something and to live without limits makes you very independent, which quickly separates you from the God who made you. And it actually creates this terrible downward spiral of dislike of yourself. Self-hate and desiring to be in control is a recipe for continued pain. And I will say it may not always express itself through the body, but it is felt in the mind and emotions, aka the soul. It also kept me from being able to walk with Jesus in a dependent manner, pursuing fullness of health, which is what he wanted for me. It's what he wants for you. Even if you say, I don't follow Jesus, I don't believe in God, it doesn't mean he doesn't want all of this for you. It doesn't mean he didn't create you and desire to see you delivered and restored to full health and wholeness. So after I realized that about myself, I then saw autoimmune diseases in a different light. Autoimmune diseases, most people know, are all about and known to be the body attacking itself. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't it make sense that my drivenness from self-hate would be telling my body that I am bad? I am something to be fearful of, right? So then wouldn't my body in a self-defense, autoimmune, immunity, protection attack itself? Interesting thought. And for me, that kept my snowball going, connecting more dots. Now at this time, since exercise was removed and I was feeling so badly, I released all stress about food through the release of that, which I mean truly like full release, like I ate anything and everything. I didn't realize how terrified I was of that food. And now that I'm on the other side of that fear, I can see more clearly how diabetes really distorts our relationship with food. It is a recipe for being terrified of food, but it may manifest as binge eating or sneak eating. You know, like it's a wild dynamic. But all that said, since the exercise was removed and I was no longer stressing about food, all that was left was me to do soul work and letting the Lord direct my steps. And much to my surprise, I really began believing that Jesus died to make me healed and whole, just like I was saying about you. I finally began believing this truth. In 2019, it's when that belief system just started oozing out of me. I became very passionate about the 39 stripes that Jesus took for my healing. And this included seeing diabetes improve without me trying to control it. Now, if I got conviction that I needed to exercise or change my diet or whatever, I would follow that because he was directing my steps. However, I still cannot exercise, and I'm going to the endocrinologist very soon to dig into that more, because I'm just now putting those puzzle pieces together as to what I did to harm my body when I was over exercising. So believing that Jesus died to make me healed and whole included seeing diabetes improve on top of everything else I was dealing with, which I had a running list of ailments. It did help direct my path. So if I could find a diagnosis, I could then figure out what were some root causes of it. But diabetes is the only one that is technically incurable. But by letting him direct my steps, with me throwing a few curveballs in there, because You know, the saying goes, old habits die hard. I learned a lot of new things and became more attuned to my body because I treated my soul. And when you become attuned to your body and no longer view it as an enemy, which self-hate meant I viewed my body as an enemy. And honestly, if you paused and you asked yourself, do I view my body as my enemy because I have this diagnosis? And you reflect on that, it'd be interesting to see what comes to mind. And there's no shame in it. It's actually a lot of freedom when you realize that, man, I'm not attuned with my body because I viewed it as an enemy. And that viewing is a soul job. So I focus on treating my soul. I implied in my intro video that's pinned on this channel that I wouldn't be surprised if most people living with diabetes, especially type 1 diabetes, has endured some form of trauma, knowingly or unknowingly, and it has led to a sick body. Sometimes that can be words that were spoken over you, so you do just start disliking yourself. It can be relational breakdowns, lots of things that in time I expect to share. But here's what's interesting. 2017 is now 2025. 8 years. I have worked out a minimal amount. I am leaner and I'm less inflamed than I was back then. You can look at my old videos where I was exercising all the time. I was cooking from scratch. You could not find a box in my house, in my kitchen. And I now have freedom around food. But as a disclaimer, blood sugars are a whole nother battle as I gained this freedom around food and learning how my body responds to the food. It's what are all the factors that are coming together to cause my body to respond a certain way to food. That's the key. Of course you do want to eat healthy. Of course it's important. But if it's causing you to be beyond stressed and causing it to be detrimental to you, there's not enough vegetables and low carb food you can eat to make up for what that is doing to your entire being. So I'm not healed of diabetes, but I believe sharing some of my journey will create the space for you to see health improvements too. And I'm excited to share little by little what this journey has looked like for me and how I've progressed. I am still facing some odd things, but I say with utmost confidence, the old me is gone. I am more free and healthy and healed, and I'm going to continue to pursue seeing health improvements all around, but especially with diabetes. I am living without limits, but not out of defiance, but rather by the blood of Jesus. Until next time.